Welcome back. I am Slither / Feng Shui, which you probably know by now if you've watched any of these other videos. This is about plotting on Syndom from the player side. So I've recorded some of these videos for admin training, and I want to touch on some of the things that you, a player, can do to GM on the player side for your other characters in the game, or for other characters in the game, as well as to boost yourself, like how to create a rich and unique character that is a badass, probably, because that's what we all want, right? Maybe not everyone. So circles of trust. Everyone knows that this is a cyberpunk game, and the theme is betrayal and climbing the ranks and stepping over the corpses of your enemies, right? But you can't not have friends, or at least close allies, if you're going to be successful. No one in this game ever got to where they are now by not having allies. So, circles of trust. Basically, try to have some players, or some characters, not players, that your character is friends with, that you share information with, that you have alliances with, that you have mutual goals with. So, hire people to do jobs. And based on those jobs and the results, like if somebody's really good at it, right, then maybe give them more jobs. Keep giving them more and more complicated jobs or tasks to do that you pay them for or barter for, like for information, for gear, or that you say, listen, I'm building an empire and I want you to get in at the ground floor. So I can't pay you now, but if you work with me on accomplishing these goals, then we will make money eventually, and you will be one of the people that benefits from it, from the protection, etc. So, hire people. It's very important. No one who's anyone doesn't have someone working for them. The more people work for you, the better. There was a point where basically everyone in the game worked for my character, and I had to scale it back a bit, because there was no conflict, because I resolved all the conflict when it came up. Like, character A doesn't like character B, and I'd be like, listen guys, you want to work for me, you're going to get along. And then they got along, and guess what? The fucking game was boring. But there's a lot more people in the game now, so it'd be very difficult for you to get everyone working for you, or at least everyone working for you in a way that they all know that they're working for you, and that they all know everyone else that's working for you. So, not as big an issue. Find mutual goals with characters, right? So to do that, you have to talk to them. You gotta be like, what do you want? Like, what are you looking for? Where do you want to be in 3 months, in 6 months? And they're gonna be like, well, I want to be a fixer. And you could be like, listen, I know a fixer. I could get you in with them and have you selling stuff for them. But if I do that, you've gotta give me gear at a good price, or you've gotta do this for me. You gotta do this for me, right? There's a lot of ways to go about that. Find enemies. So as important as alliances and allies are enemies, like you aren't going to have fun in this game if everyone likes you and you never cause any drama. It can be sometimes uncomfortable to make enemies with people because you're like, well, I'm a nice person in real life, but that's boring. Don't be boring. Make enemies. Seriously. Be super nice in character, but then every once in a while, just like somebody walks into the drone that you don't know and you're like, fuck you, man. I'll kill you. Again, enemies very important. Plot to ruin your enemies' reputations. You don't have to, having an enemy doesn't mean that they have to be someone that you try to kill every time you see them. You can, that's fine, I guess, but what's more fun is an interaction where it's like a Cold War. Like, you don't like each other, and maybe you have opposing goals, but you don't actively try to kill each other. You just try to sabotage each other. People see you in public and you're just making snide remarks to each other, trying to see who is going to back down first, right? Who's going to be the guy that, gives in to their need to fight the most. This was an interaction that Seven and Nicodemus Fraser had, where we basically didn't like each other. Nicodemus hated my character, even though they had Nicodemus kind of trained him and stuff like that. Didn't like the path he took. Didn't like the fact that he was a ganger, and would just make snide remarks all the time, and Seven would make snide remarks back, but Seven knew that if he gave in and attacked Nicodemus, Nicodemus technically won in the end, because he was able to bait him, which basically just proved Nicodemus' argument that Seven was just this ganger piece of shit with no class. You don't need GMs to do any of this. In fact, I would say that the best roleplay that you will ever have in the game comes from your own machinations that involve 0 GMs. If there's no GMs involved, you can run your own plot, and you run it in the way that you want, right? So, like, I'm not saying that GMs are bad, because I'm a GM, or have been a GM, and I think the GMs do great jobs, but we can only do so much. Like, keeping the game running on a day-to-day basis takes up a lot of time, and doesn't leave us as much time as we would like to run plots for each of you. So run plots for each other. Good plots, bad plots, just neutral type plots. Do it. It's okay. It's expected, and it will make the game better for everyone. Goals lead to plots. Your character needs goals. Lofty goals are great. So, like, my character wants to be the Chief Justice. Now, I'm going to be honest, that will never happen. My character will never be the Chief Justice, the head of the WJF. He will never sit on the corporate council, as a PC anyway. Maybe he retires as an NPC, and this happens in very rare cases. Somebody's been around in the game long enough, their character is going to move on to an NPC type role where they're not going to play them anymore, but the character is going to be the Chief Justice or something. The reason that we can't allow players in the highest seats of power, so like you may have heard that players can't run corporations. That's not technically true. You could start and run your own corporation. You could also move up to be like the VP of some real like big corporation like NLM, a VP of some specific department. The reason that we can't have you at the top, and the reason that we typically don't make people the leaders of gangs that they didn't start, is because players come and go. And maybe you're around for the long haul, and you're going to be here forever. But what about when you're not online? There needs to be somebody who it makes in-character sense to go to when you have a problem. So, as an example, if you're the highest player at NLM in the producer area, you've got a boss, and that boss can handle stuff when you're not around. Or if you decide to stop playing, or if you get busy with finals, or if you get a new boyfriend, and you need to you're spending less time on the game. There's someone to pick up the slack. Now, this doesn't mean that you are not, for all intents and purposes in some of these positions, in charge of your stuff. It just means that the GMs have the ability to step in and take over if you disappear, or if you die, right? Like, that happens in the game. So we need to have the ability to seamlessly, smoothly transition from you running things on a day-to-day basis back to us running things on a day-to-day basis so that the game doesn't fall apart if you're not around. But don't take that as a reason not to have lofty goals. Your character can have goals that you know out of character you will never attain. You might be like, I want to be a trillionaire. I want to have 1 trillion Cheyenne. Probably you're never going to have that much Cheyenne because that would break the game. But that doesn't mean that you can't try to get it. That doesn't mean your character knows that you can't get it. So I know that's, for some people that are listening, they're like, why would I have a goal that I can never achieve? Because it keeps you motivated and moving forward. And just because your biggest goal is something you out of character know you'll never achieve, does not mean that your secondary goals are not achievable. And it does not mean that in pursuit of your primary goal, you don't have a bunch of secondary goals you have to reach first, which is very entertaining and fun. So goals lead to plots. What does that actually mean? Well, if you have a goal and your goal is to have 3 people working for you, then the plot is to find people to work for you. That's it, right? If your plot is to have 1 million Cheyenne, well, you've got to find ways to make money. If your plot is to kill your enemy, you've got to find a way to make that happen. So goals are the crux of the game. You need them. They are very important. The more goals you have, and the better, kind of. You don't want to have too many to the point where you kind of like are weird and like just bouncing around to 1 million different things. Focus a little bit, but when you like finish a goal, when you reach it, find a new one, and that's where that like big goal that you may never achieve comes into play, because that will dictate probably your next step. Pay or barter for information. I mean, we're talking about plotting, right? But all these things are plots if they involve other players. So pay or barter for information. But don't just like get on the sick and say, hey, I'm going to give 500 C or 500 chai to anyone who can tell me where so-and-so lives, and then have them meet you and get the information and pay them, right? I mean, you could do that. That's technically a plot, right? But take it to another level, right? Get on the sick on a random alias and do that. And then when somebody messages you, be like, all right, we need to do a dead drop. Or we need to meet up, and I'm going to send my guy, you send your guy, and they'll do the dead drop. Or they'll have a conversation. Through us, we'll sick them what we want them to say out loud. That way we can kind of meet face-to-face, but safely keep our identities hidden. So to do that, you would have to actually you'd have to find someone to show up for you. So you have to find a player that can act as your mouthpiece, right? You have to pay them. You have to teach them over the sick what you want. You have to dead drop 500 chai for them, or however much you're paying them. And then you have to interact with them while they go to this meeting place to meet with this other faceless person that has been hired by the other person to do the exact same thing they're doing. And then you say, like, have a conversation through those two people out loud. And that's just like a cool fucking plot. Like, I would love to be involved in something like that. I would feel like I'm involved in this secret spy shit, right? So it's cool for you, it's cool for the player that you hire, it's cool for the player the other player hires, and it's cool for the other player who is giving the information, right? So you've taken what could be this simple, stupid transaction of information and money and turned it into a real plot that is going to entertain those 4 players and anybody those 4 players are following, and anybody that those 4 players or those 3 other players go and tell about this interaction, right? So it's not just the role play that happens in real time, it's also the role play that happens because of the role play that happened. So don't do stuff yourself just because you can. So like, I could certainly go and put a sick ad up, and it would look great, and that'd be cool. Or I could pay somebody to make a sick ad, and either pay them or someone else to go put it up for my business. Plot. Don't pay somebody to go around, or don't go around and spray a bunch of graffiti for your business or hating on somebody else. Pay somebody to do it, or pay someone to do it, right? That way, it's harder to track back to you, right? Anonymity is important. Same with like taking graffiti down. Same with spreading flyers out or making flyers for your business. Don't do it yourself, right? Hire other people to do it. Delegate. This also will teach you good management skills. Trust me, that's how I learned. What else? Purchases. If you need somebody to go, if you're a mixer and you need somebody to go, you need to go get something that's on sale topside, pay somebody to fucking do it. Don't do it yourself. You don't want to be risking running into the judges. Even if you know for a fact you won't, out of character, in character themely, or theme-wise, it's a good idea, right? Be safe. The same goes for Corpies. You want something in the mix. Do not go yourself. If you do, hopefully you die, because you deserve it. But hire a mixer to go and get it and bring it to you. Or hire a mixer to come up to gold, pay them, have them go back down and get the thing, and then bring it back up to you. Or hire someone to hire somebody, right? Again, if you work at a corporation, you don't want to be consorting with mixers. So hire another corpy to go and do this for you, or to go and hire someone for you. And then you can blackmail them for interacting with mixers. Info gathering. Pretty straightforward. Pay people to do it. Don't do it yourself. I mean, you can certainly do it yourself, obviously. But you could pay someone. You could also pay somebody in cyberware. So you're like, hey, I will get you a hearing implant that lets you hear through doors, but you have to give me all the information you get. Seems like a cool partnership. You provide them the stuff, they go do the thing, and they give you the information as a result, but they also get it. Now you're both more informed. You're both getting cool shit out of this. You've built a partnership. Maybe that partnership expands into an empire where you take over the mix or take over topside, and you're super fucking important with you two at the top, and then you can have a battle, right? Because that would be fun. So these are just all different examples of things you can do that are plots. And then once you've mastered all these things, it becomes easier to start to tie them all together, right? one of these little plots leads into another, leads into another, leads into another, and all of a sudden, with the combination of all these plots, you've kind of wrapped them all together into a large plot that involves a lot of different people, right? So if everyone was doing this, the game would have more roleplay. It would have more intriguing, interesting roleplay. And it would also leave more opportunities for information to sort of be overheard or blackmailed out of people. Yes. So there is that in a purely out of character sense, that might seem like a weak link, but that's just something to train, right? This is New Wave, eh? Waving, say hi. No, where are you going? No, you stay here. Yeah. So, here's a bobtail. Yes. Plot. Practice plotting. Practice not doing anything yourself that you could pay somebody, blackmail someone, trade someone, barter someone, etc. to do. It will... Get your butt out of my face. It will... Hey! Go over here. It will improve your game and the game of everyone around you. Oh my god. Okay, I gotta go. Thank you for watching. If you have questions, like, post them on the boards, because I will happily do more videos or answer questions. Peace.